Good morning. Welcome to Real Estate Tips and Tricks with Aaron Adams. Today is September 15th, and we're glad that you're listening to our show here on News Talk 1430 WXNT. For the next hour, we will be discussing all things real estate and specifically all things related to the Indianapolis real estate market. In studio with me today, I have my good friend and constant companion, Doug Dale.
Thanks, Aaron.
I mean that in a
Business sense.
real estate constant companions. Also in studio today, we have two new guests with us. We have Gary Hippensteel. He is the president of CIREA, which stands for the Central Indiana Real Estate Investors Association. Welcome, Gary.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And as well, we have Catherine Ransburg, attorney and sole proprietor of Ransburg Law Firm. She's the legal affairs chairman for CIREA, and we're glad to have you here as well, Catherine.
Thank you very much.
Today on the show, we are really excited about the content. Not only do we have two outstanding and authoritative guests, but we also are going to be covering a lot of content for you. And to start, let me give you a little bit of background about myself. Back in 1999, I was a high school teacher. I taught U.S. history and I taught Spanish 1. One night I was up late watching TV and an infomercial came on talking about buying real estate with no money down. And I was intrigued by that concept because at that time I did own a house and I had to put money down. I actually put 3% down on that mortgage and couldn't get my mind around the concept that there would be a lender out there that would loan you money to 100% of the money required to buy a property. That didn't make sense to me. Well, I ended up getting to the end of the infomercial and not wanting to spend the $2,500 that the person pitching the infomercial wanted me to spend, I got onto eBay, which was still pretty new at the time, and found that same course from 8 years prior that was in cassette form, and I bought it for $40. Much to my disappointment, it was missing about 5 of the cassettes when I got it in the mail, and I really did get what I paid for when it came to that. I did listen to the cassettes that came, and it intrigued me because at the time I was actually working on a master's degree in business administration. I did get an MBA from Cal Poly in Pomona, California, and I was really curious as to why I had never received any kind of real estate education. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about today by having Gary and Catherine here in studio with us. The whole concept of furthering your real estate education and networking with other real estate investors, because while I had completed high school and I had completed a college degree and I was well into a master's degree in business, no one had ever introduced real estate to me on any comprehensive level. And when you think about wealth in this country and you think about real estate, anyone who's ever held a significant amount of wealth has done so through and with real estate. And anyone who's ever made a significant amount of wealth holds a good portion of it in real estate. So why wouldn't real estate be something that's taught from a very early age? You know, why spend time on algebra, something that Doug's very good at, and not spend more time on real estate? Because I remember when I bought my first property, having really no clue about what it was that I was signing. And I'm sure that many of you are nodding thinking, yeah, I didn't know either. I was just glad that I finally qualified for the property and that they weren't asking me for more information about that property, that I was actually at the closing. And if you think about it, a lot of times we let people borrow hundreds of thousands of dollars in this country against things they don't even understand. It kind of reminds me of when I brought my first son home from the hospital, being surprised that they actually let me out of the hospital without having without a training course.
Your poor son.
Yeah, no. And then I learned there is a right way for the diapers to go, and that was a trial and error thing. And after spending some time listening to those cassette tapes and spending some time educating myself on real estate, I did go to a real estate investment group and met with them. And one of the investors that I met was named Jim, and Jim owned over 140 properties. Now, he lived in Del Mar, which is one of the most beautiful parts of our country, and he was passionate about racehorses, but he owned over 100 properties in Riverside. And through that relationship, over the next few years, Jim sold me about 25 of his properties. And I really began to learn about and make money from real estate. The first investment property that I bought was a duplex. I bought it for $100,000 and 6 months later made about $50,000 on that property. And I was hooked from that point forward. And real estate education is something that I continue to be very passionate about. Many of you have logged onto our website, which is invest317.com. That's the word invest and the numbers 317. Others have called us at 866-612-0346. Those of you who have been to our website and who have called us, then you also know that we do free info sessions on a regular basis. Our next one is this Wednesday, September 19th. It's going to be at 6:30 in the Fountain Square Theater Building. And you can register for that absolutely free online at invest317.com. This next weekend, Doug and I will also be speaking at an event at the JW Marriott downtown on Saturday and Sunday, the 22nd and 23rd. And we will be teaching about all things real estate, in addition to literally putting investors on buses and taking them around town and showing them the number of deals that we've done. Well, after I did that first duplex, since that time I have purchased over 1,800 properties all over the country. I've purchased everything from trailer parks to single-family homes, apartment complexes, commercial buildings. I've purchased at auctions and tax sales and from private portfolios and even directly from banks. And the one common thing that investors always ask me as I speak to groups across the country is, what's my favorite class of real estate? And that's the first question. The second question I usually get is, do I own anything but real estate? And I have to answer that my favorite class of real estate is actually single-family homes, and which is the precise reason why I moved from California to Indianapolis back in 2004, and why 70% of the properties that I've purchased since that time have been here in Indianapolis, because it is the #1 market in the country for cash flow properties. And the second reason, which we've talked about on other shows, and Doug and we're actually going to be talking about next week in depth, is that Doug and I both are really passionate about real estate as an alternate to 401ks and security-based retirement funds. So putting your money in stocks, putting your money in mutual funds. And so with that, let me let Doug introduce himself and give us a little bit of his background. Many of you who are regular listeners are familiar with his background, but why don't you lay it on us, Doug?
Sure. Aaron, thanks again for having me. It's always fun. I was, unlike Aaron, I was born and raised here, but Aaron's got family roots here, and he'll talk about that. He's talked about it before. But I got into real estate right around 2004, 2005 as well, full-time. I got into it kind of like Aaron, based on a seminar. One of my friends went to a seminar and suggested I try it out. I did a We Buy Houses ad in the newspaper. As luck would have it, the first phone call I got was a deal. It's not always that easy, by the way. I was spoiled, I guess. Bought a house just down the street from where I was running my staffing company. Sold it, made about 25, 30 grand. And realized, just like Aaron, real estate was for me. It hooked me. So, fast forward, I've done a couple thousand homes, done them, across the country with Aaron and helped teach Aaron, or teach with Aaron, excuse me. Maybe teach Aaron some things.
Absolutely.
But so we enjoy investing. I enjoy it as an alternative to other retirement accounts or other retirement avenues. And we talk all the time about how we prefer single-family homes over stocks and bonds and currencies and things of that nature. And we'll be talking about that again next week as well.
Yeah, and you do a lot of work with partners who lean on you for a good portion of their retirement growth and retirement income, don't you?
Absolutely. We have partners who basically have entrusted us, just like you do, Aaron, with the majority of their retirement wealth. So they'll put that into single-family homes, which we'll manage for them, and they'll take that income and live off of it.
Yeah, and that's a great lead-in to you, Gary. And I know I want to spend more time in the next segment really digging into how you got to where you're at, heading up the local real estate investor. It's actually the largest group here in Central Indiana for real estate investors, correct?
Yes, it is.
So maybe you can give us a little bit of your personal background.
Okay. Well, again, my name's Gary Ippenstill, and I am from Indianapolis here. And I too got started in real estate in 2005. But how I got started into real estate was my family already had some rental properties. But what pushed me into becoming an entrepreneur was I was seeing my career after graduating from college, like Kiyosaki talks about, of go to school, get good grades, and go work for somebody long term. And after 15 years as a W-2 employee, I was ready to move out onto my own. And so I had a perfect opportunity then to get into real estate and doing it full time then.
Yeah, I like the family component that you mentioned because my father did a lot of hard money lending. He actually passed the realtor exam for the first time, I think it was in 1974.
Right.
When I was one. Doug was still a gleam in his mother's eye at that point.
Correct.
But yeah, that family connection is a big deal because you learn so much at home, and I see that's actually a common thread because Doug, your dad did had a lot of kind of background as an entrepreneur, as an investor, didn't he?
Yeah, he did some work like that. Now he ended up working for Pfizer basically as his full-time career, but he started off actually in real estate in Florida. Now in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, which anybody will tell you kind of dried up around that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So, I was looking for an opportunity. I knew I wanted to get out on my own, but I wasn't sure what that looked like for me. And so through my family's properties, it was just a good hand-glove fit to come in, start helping manage the rental properties, and then I took it on from there. What I do now is I flip homes. I'm a rehabber, and I retail and resell the properties because my business background is in project management.
Okay, great. And Catherine, give us your 30-second blurb, your quick meeting. When people say, what is it that you do and what is it that you're passionate about?
The bulk of my practice is in representing landlords and landlord-tenant situations. I am a litigation-oriented attorney. I don't do real estate transactions, but I do represent landlords and help them put together the proper documents in order to have a good landlord-tenant practice going forward. And primarily, the thing I am very passionate about is making sure that landlords are well educated. A lot of people get the idea, oh, let's just buy a house and we'll be a landlord, and they have no idea what they're getting into, and then I get the phone call mid-crisis and their paperwork is horrible, they've done everything they're not supposed to do according to the statutes, and I have to go into court and explain why they really shouldn't have the book thrown at them.
Got it. Well, let's do this. Let's take a quick break, but coming up in the next segment, we're going to really dig into Gary and his expertise and Catherine and her expertise, and as you can see, we have a wealth of knowledge in the studio today. You're listening to Real Estate Tips and Tricks with me, Aaron Adams, and this is News Talk 1430 WXNT. We'll be right back.